Hello, Sunshine. I'm Alexi, Lalas, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast. We look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This week, we'll be talking, with the great Steve Cherundolo, a guest on the State of the Union. We'll be talking British crime dramas, Insigne, Ferreira, RSL, D. Wade, the timeout, FA Cup, Vini Jr., Juve, Pepe, Zardes, pre-World Cup behavior, U.S. home stadiums, red, white, and denim, and so much more. But first, joining me, as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mossy, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. Mossy, how are you on this Monday, January 10th in the year 2022?
I'm doing well, especially after the weather has picked up again in LA the last couple of days. We're back to what LA weather should be.
Yeah, well, we were both, as we mentioned last week, we were in Florida for the holidays, and we could not have timed it any better, my friend, because I was getting reports about the deluge that was going on. And I know everybody's really crying out there for us over here. But, you know, it rains in L.A. and all hell breaks loose. Nobody knows what to do, and it's the end of days and all that kind of stuff, while the rest of the world, the rest of the country is freezing their ass off for the most part. We were over in beautiful, sunny Florida, and then we get back here, and the sun comes out, and it's another beautiful southern California week here. So we've been very, very lucky. Let's see. You watch anything, Mossy, over the week?
Yeah, I actually have a few things this week. I went back and rectified one of my big misses from 2021. I binged a show called The White Lotus, which, as you know, I'm big on these HBO Sunday night prestige dramas, and yet somehow I'd missed The White Lotus, but I went back and watched it and enjoyed it. Also, two things that could not be more different, but believe it or not, fall under the same umbrella. I'm actually reading a book right now on the Rwanda genocide in 1994, and I watched season 2 of Emily in Paris. Now, you might wonder, how on earth do those two things...
Do you go back and forth, chapter to chapter? Boy, oh boy, Mossy.
Well, the book is in French. It's written by a French...
Oh, my God. What?
French...
Pretentious... Oh,
it was written by a French-Canadian general who was there recounting his experience. So I picked it up for that reason as part of my studies. And then I watch Emily in Paris too, because there's just enough French in there for me to try to practice as well. So it all falls under that umbrella, Alexi.
Just mark it down here. Monday, January 10th, David Mossy said that he is reading a book in French about the Rwandan genocide. My God, can you get any more snobby? Well, okay. I hope that goes well for you, my friend. Let's see. What do I have that I watched? A couple of things. So there's this whole genre, or I guess subgenre, depending on how you look at it, of British crime dramas out there. And as we know, my rule is it has to be done, right? It started and finished. I don't want to continue on. I don't want to be beholden to the man. I want to be able to binge, like you said, and start and finish it when it comes to the episodes. And there's a whole bunch of them out there, including one called Paranoid. And like they say, these are British. One's called Paranoid, which is a limited series, you know, the 8-episode type of thing, which is really, really good. And then one called Safe, which stars Michael C. Hall. You might remember him from Dexter and some different things out there, which is really good. He does a really good English accent. Both of them were interesting for a number of reasons. I'm going to get to another one here, but I just want to mention this. When you're watching these British crime dramas, what is interesting watching it from an American lens is the fact that all of these detectives and all of these policemen and women, they're not armed. They don't have guns. And this isn't to get in a whole, Second Amendment type of thing or anything like that. It's just really, really interesting to me. I count the amount of times where I'm saying, why are they doing that? They're not armed, and then the amount of stabbing that goes on. It's just obviously a very, very different country and culture in the way that they go about things. But at times I'm left thinking, why are these people not armed? Number one, it would protect them. Number two, it just looks so foreign to me from an American perspective watching these things. So they were both interesting and entertaining in their own way. They're a little bit of fluff and they just kind of come and go, but they're good. Both I said like about 8 episodes, and both of them, I think when they decide that something's going to be 8 episodes, a limited series, because they are given an inch and take a mile type of thing. In the same way that we talked about the Beatles documentary, if you know you're just going to let it all hang out there, all of that flat and flab and unnecessary type of stuff becomes more pronounced. And so I think both of them could have been done in a smaller type of format in much less time. And then the third one was another drama based on a true story called Unbelievable, which stars Toni Collette. And it is awesome. It's been around for a while. A lot of these have been around for a while. I'm just getting to them. So if you've seen them, then you know what I'm talking about. But I thought they did an incredible job. And it's just a remarkable story. And once you start looking it up and reading the actual true story that is based on it, it blows your mind. But I guess it shouldn't be that surprising. And it gets into whole situation, with accusations and whether they are true and truthful and believing and not believing victims, and if they even are victims and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I recommend all of those three. Anything else, Mossy?
Two things coming up later this month I'm excited about. New episodes of Ozark drop on Netflix. I believe it's January 21. And then HBO has a new show called The Gilded Age, which is done by the creator of Downton Abbey. It's essentially a New York version of Downton Abbey, which I'm really excited about. The trailer looks great. I believe the premiere is January 24th on that. So two things to look forward to.
Nice. All right, listen, without further ado, let's get right into it. And we are going to start off our show with an interview with Steve Cherundolo. So, Moss, you ready to light this candle?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's get right into it. Welcome. We are going to welcome in Steve Cherundolo, the newly appointed head coach of LAFC. Steve, welcome to the State of the Union podcast. Congratulations. All right, listen, you're in the hot seat. You're the man. You are the boss. And with that comes responsibility. With that comes expectation. And with that comes the grilling, all right, that maybe you haven't had in the past. So I'm going to start it off right off the bat here with a question. All right. You are youngish. Your track record when it comes to coaching is mostly assistant coaching for a number of years. And when it was head coaching, it was for youth teams until last year with Las Vegas Lights. And certainly when you look at the Lights with a 6-win, 3-draw, and 23-loss record, wasn't great from a record standpoint. Why do you think that you deserve this plum job at LAFC?
Because I'm the right person for the job. For where we are right now as an organization and where we're going, my attributes, my relationships, and also relationships within the building are the right pieces to get this project moving forward in the right direction.
How does that manifest, though? You say you're the right person, you see that. So give me an actual real life on the job type of experience where that intrinsic knowledge and having been around the team and the identity that's already been formed actually shows up in your day-to-day working. I know it's early days.
I wouldn't have been here if Bob and I didn't see eye to eye, at least at a philosophical level as far as football goes. And so, we share many of the same principles and ideas about the game. And so that is very easy to continue. Something that we wanted to have here is continuity. And so I think you will see that also in the staff when that is finalized, that we have some continuity moving forward because there is a lot of good to go off of at LAFC. But my experiences and my influence in coaching in Europe, predominantly with coaches who were very strong in transition, will also come to play with this team and to help move us and improve in areas that we see improvement.
Steve, there's an eternal debate in MLS about whether you're better off hiring a manager who understands the intricacies of the league as opposed to an outsider. Now, Ronnie Dyla did just win MLS Cup and Tata won it in 2018. So there have been some success stories for outsiders recently. But what do you make of that debate? And do you feel like with your background, you almost check off both boxes in terms of being an insider and an outsider?
Teams who are winning MLS Cups get the balance in the roster right. And have obviously enough quality to win championships. That's what it comes down to in the day. Are coaches important? Yeah. But are they the deciding factor? I'm not too sure. So I don't really think the debate is fair. But to answer your question, I do think that I bring an interesting mix. And then if, once our staff is finalized, we will be well balanced staff-wise to have some international experience, some domestic experience, assistant coaches also who will connect with certain players on our team. So we are looking to be well balanced really everywhere, on and off the field.
Sorry, Steve, you mentioned, kind of the succession planning and the organization behind the scenes that involved you. Bob Bradley, his shadow looms large, and I think it still will be, especially in the identity, but you're your own man. So you come in, what are some things that you think you're going to continue from Bob Bradley and that identity that he established, and some other things that you're going to incorporate in that are new?
Well, I think the LAFC identity on the field of attacking minded, wanting to score goals, putting teams on their heels, I think is something we will continue. We want to continue. I truly believe that's the right way to play if you can and if you have the tools, which we do. But furthermore, I think it's more important to be, if you look at the defensive side without having the ball, being proactive is something that's very important to us. A lot of people will just think that is being a high pressing team, keeping a high line. I disagree. You can be proactive by deep defending as well. We can also be very proactive in transition, which is a big piece to the puzzle where I think we can improve.
Steve, a player who's been so important to that proactive style of LAFC's last few years has been Carlos Vela. Can you shed some light on his future with the club? There have been some questions this offseason. Is he somebody that you want to coach for the next couple of years? You think he'll be with LAFC for the next couple of years?
I certainly hope so, and I believe so. I think his talents and tools are second to none in this league. I think we've all seen what he can do. He believes in himself. He likes it here. We've had great conversations, but our main point of focus right now is what we can control, and that is getting Carlos fit and healthy and getting him on the field, surround him with the best players as possible, and then we will see the best out of Carlos again.
Steve, can I go back to your time in Las Vegas? And when I say your time in Las Vegas, I know you were kind of commuting and going back and forth, but I'm really interested actually in how this worked out. The relationship and the partnership that was established between these two teams. The way I don't understand it, so I want you to explain it to me. What was your main focus and responsibility relative to that team, relative to the first team, I guess it would be, in LAFC? Because I want to understand that, because they're going to name another coach to Las Vegas, and maybe it's unfair for us from the outside to judge on the record, and in this case, not a very good record, if your responsibilities were different.
Yeah, success is relative, and how we define success, everybody does for themselves. And within this organization, success for the Las Vegas Lights last year was to prepare players for the MLS, and we believe we did an excellent job of that. We progressed a few players. Danny Crisosimo, for example, who started with the Lights, who then moved up and played some crucial minutes. Fall was another example who definitely made a big splash last year in his first season in the MLS. So the objective of ours was to prepare players, as many players as possible, for LAFC, and I think we did an excellent job with that. Yeah. Would you like to win a few more games during the season? Absolutely. But I think if we all went back and looked at each game and looked at the rosters we fielded, the amount of valuable minutes and lessons that we were able to give very young players last season was extremely valuable for these players in their careers and for LAFC moving forward.
All right, hold on. One more question, and then we're going to open it up, because I want to really pick your brain about the soccer landscape in the U.S. and especially over in Germany with what's happening over there. One more about Las Vegas. So, if that's the objective in this relationship and in this partnership right now, if somebody is calling me to be a season ticket holder for Las Vegas, is the pitch that you are seeing the future of LAFC, or is the pitch, hey, this is great quality soccer, we're here to win championships, and we're doing everything to get the best possible product on the day for that team?
It's both. So year one of that relationship was always going to be an uphill battle, which we saw result-wise. I think developmental-wise in developing players was fantastic. We were very happy with that. Moving into this next season, getting a better understanding of obviously the USL, the league, and preparing a team to compete and to play a bigger role in the league, in our division, we are much further and ahead of the game. And I think all the Las Vegas Lights fans will be extremely pleased and happy and proud of the team we'll be feeling this year.
Let's pick your brain a little bit then about, because you are, for all intents and purposes, an expert when it comes to Germany and to the Bundesliga with your incredible career and your incredible experience even off the field. Why do you think that Germany has been so open to the American player? And in particular, and obviously a lot of talk right now is Ricardo Pepi and what's happening with him right now. How do you think he is ultimately going to go do in that environment? And I guess it's specifically for the team that he's going to in Augsburg.
to succeed and survive in the Bundesliga environment, within the club, the coaching, the training is very intense. The critique and feedback is very intense. And so I think an American player, usually believing in himself, we'll just generalize for a minute, believing in himself, having a strong mentality, losing, getting up, and then fighting again. I think that goes a long way in the Bundesliga in the eyes of German coaches, which is why they really like to bring American players over. On top of that, you add in most American players are technically well-rounded, have a very good foundation in the United States, and athletically bring a lot to the table. So those three components are very important. The Germans are also very adamant about their tactical training. They believe they can teach any player anything and teach them the German way. And so they believe they can add that last element to an American player. So I think this is why most German clubs and coaches are very open to American players.
And Steve, playing off of that, there is this debate right now about what MLS's role should be in the global transfer market. Should MLS embrace being a quote unquote selling league? How do you view that? If with LAFC, you have a couple of young, promising American players that are attracting interest overseas, would you encourage them to go, or would you fight to keep them because they can help you win with LAFC? How do you view that sort of balancing act as a coach in MLS?
I'm not sure that that's an MLS topic as it is an individual club topic. I think every club has to understand their role in this league domestically, but also globally, and make decisions accordingly. I think if you have a game plan as a club, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a club who will develop players and then sell them? Invest into high top prospects, develop them further, and then sell them. That is a business model that works, and we've seen in every league around the world. For example, Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga at a different level. Their payroll is very high, but their business model is to buy the best young player in the world, develop them, and then sell them on to the big five clubs. So I think identifying that role for yourself as a club is extremely important. And so to answer your question, it has less to do with an MLS approach than it does an individual club approach.
All right, let's switch to the international game. You are a former international, very, very successful. You know what it takes to not just individually be successful, but also what it takes for a team. Our U.S. team right now, our U.S. men's team, coached by Greg Berhalter, sitting pretty right now in second place. Still plenty of work to do. When you look at the team right now, where it is, and I guess expand it out to where it is going, does it warm the cockles of your heart like it does mine?
It absolutely does. So standings, I think getting our players, our team in the right spot as far as points and creating a comfortable situation in CONCACAF, which both you and I know is very difficult, especially on the road, was the kind of last piece of the puzzle. We saw for a long time in the past few years the way they're playing, the ideas they want, are progressive, are the right choice, in my opinion, to move this thing forward. And we saw some incredibly talented players. It was a big bet to just go young. But I think this team and what I'm seeing, and like I said, the key to being successful with the U.S. national team is finding a core of guys that truly like being around each other. And I'm seeing this from my screen. I don't know what's going on inside the locker room, but from my screen, I am seeing a connection, and that will go a long way in solidifying these results we're seeing moving forward to the next year.
Steve, how far can the U.S. national team go, say, in the 2022 or 2026 World Cups? Megan Rapinoe came out recently and said everybody needs to calm down a little bit. There's a lot of excitement there, but I think the U.S. men are still 15 years away from being able to challenge for a World Cup title. Is that your view, or do you feel like she's selling the men's program short a little bit, and that we could already see this collection of players be a contender, maybe even as early as 22, but perhaps more realistically 2026?
As much as we would like to plan this out and to say we will be World Cup champions in 26, that would be fantastic. You will never hear that from me. This game is so hard to plan. I think a lot of it has to do with the draw. It has to do with, for anybody who's been to a World Cup or follows them very closely, you just have to be in form for 4 weeks. And the team who is in form for 4 weeks and allows very few mistakes ends up being the World Cup champion if they have obviously the talent and the pedigree to win those games. So a lot goes into current form, and that is extremely important in this. So do we have players to have a very successful World Cup? Yeah, I do believe we can have a fantastic World Cup. But ask me that question a week prior to the World Cup again, please.
All right, let's finish it up with just a couple of quick questions that I have for you. One, just yes or no, does the U.S. men's national team qualify for the World Cup in Qatar 2022?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that. Number two, does LAFC make the playoffs in 2022?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then finally, my last question to you. What are you going to wear on the sideline? All right. This is always up for debate. We were just talking about Greg Berhalter and, his style. Bob and I go back a long way when it comes to what to wear on the sideline and all that. And I actually think he's evolved in his thinking and in his wardrobe out there. What do you have planned for the LAFC faithful and all of us that are watching from the outside from your on sideline attire?
You know what? I will wear what I usually wear on a day-to-day basis. So it'll be casual, but it will be, I guess, the right mix for the occasion. Maybe a little bit of European mixed in there. European fitting, not quite as much as your partner in crime, Stewie. Not as tight as his stuff, but definitely, I would say just smart casual. If you want to put a word on it.
Are you a sneakerhead? Well, in terms of your shoe game.
Yes, after playing a long career, I have no other option. There's nothing else that's comfortable for me to stand there for 90 minutes or 90 minutes plus. So,
well, yeah. Your friend Greg Berhalter, he's bringing it when it comes to the shoe game over there. Steve Cherundolo, thank you so much for being on the State of the Union podcast. I wish you all the luck in the world. Look forward to seeing you on that sideline. We look forward to seeing what LAFC is going to be. Congratulations. Welcome back, and onward and upward, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we got all sorts of MLS stuff. Don't go anywhere. Okay, welcome back. That was really interesting. Mossy, I don't know what you thought about it, but, Steve Cherundolo, as I said, and as I questioned him, he is still relatively inexperienced, but I thought it was interesting to hear some of his answers. He seems very obviously optimistic and confident in his abilities and making that transition to what I said, and I think I said this on a previous pod, that's a plum job. There's a lot of people that have to be envious of this opportunity for Steve Cherundolo. And that's why I started off the question about why does he deserve it? And as I said a million times before, life isn't fair and soccer isn't fair. And while he didn't say it, I kind of just want people to say it. And I've had advantages and I've had opportunities that maybe I quote unquote didn't deserve or didn't merit relative to others. But you make your own luck. You put yourself in a position to have those different opportunities, and you take you hopefully take advantage of them. So I wish him well. What'd you think of the interview?
It was great. It's funny. I was going to ask him a question, but he sort of answered it in the answer to one of your questions about LAFC's style of play, because as we know, Bob Bradley talked a lot about playing the right way, and he chastised other MLS teams for not playing the right way. And he took great pride in the fact that LAFC had this expansive, proactive approach. So I was going to ask Steve, do you feel the same way, or are you one of those adapt to the situation, do whatever you got to do to get a result? And he did sort of intimate that no, he's going to place an emphasis on, because with LAFC, it's not just the results that he has to uphold. It's this identity they've cultivated of being a team that plays, attractive soccer. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we tried to obviously start it out because it's LAFC and he's the coach of LAFC, of concentrating on that, but then expanding it out. And look, I know that there's people out there that could care less about LAFC and actually probably turned it off when they heard that we were going to talk to an LAFC coach. But I hope that you didn't, because I think he does talk about some other things, and I think a lot of us here share his confidence when it comes to the national team. But it's going to be really interesting to see, to your point, and it applies to a bunch of different teams out there, not just domestically in Major League Soccer, but around the world, where you have this integration and you have this succession type of plan, and how much it is the identity of the club, and you are just the conduit, and how much of it is your person. I mean, if Steve Cherundolo feels that what Bob was doing in totality or in individual silos was wrong, I think it's his responsibility to change it. But if he fundamentally is changing the identity of what LAFC is in doing that, then it isn't really an identity in the first place. And so it'll be interesting to see. Ultimately, I think the LAFC faithful, they want this team to win. They want this team to make the playoffs. And they want this team, which has gotten so much attention, which is why it is such a plum job. But they still haven't won Major League Soccer's biggest prize, which is MLS Cup. And so they want them to figure that out. And we'll see if Steve Cherundolo is the man to lead them to that promised land. All right, Mussy, what do you want to start off talking here? Because there was plenty of news when it comes to the MLS front.
Well, the Insigne deal is now official. We talked about it plenty last week, but Do you have anything you'd like to add? I'm reading reports that it's roughly $15 million per year for the Italian international, who is off to Toronto to be coached by Bob Bradley, the man who Steve Cherundolo replaced in LAFC.
You know, as the great Roger Waters of Pink Floyd said, did it need to be so high? I mean, what if you're paying whatever 20 gross, whatever the net ends up being, regardless, it's a huge record. Did you need to pay that? And I guess if you're talking to Toronto FC, they recognize that at a certain point, yes, money is important, but you want to, you know, we don't want to quote some more stuff. Godfather, you want to make them an offer you can't refuse. And in doing this, they did that, and they established something. They put down their marker, and now they have their guy. But as I said last week, and like I said, we don't want to rehash what we talked about last week, but I will reiterate, he's coming to a very different type of environment, and he's coming to a team that has not been very good of late. And I remember back when David Beckham first arrived at the Los Angeles Galaxy. You know, he couldn't do it all by himself, and they needed to make the changes both on and off the field, which included firing me and firing Rudy Gullit and bringing in Bruce Arena, who then brought in Robbie Keane, you know, and these types of players to really get that team to function and to get that big star to put him in an environment where he could succeed and in a comfortable environment. And he is going to be taken out of his comfort zone very, very quickly. And the expectation is that he's going to step on the field and be unlike anything we have ever seen. Maybe that's unrealistic, but that's what the expectation is. And I'm here for it. As I said last week, I'm excited. I'm excited for what this signing means. The attention that it generated was, I think it was justified, and I think it was about what I thought it was going to be. But you know, again, and I think it bears repeating, this is while a star on the field and a star that is being paid for specifically what he does on the field. This is not a sexy type of name that's going to sell tickets everywhere he goes. There is a curiosity from the faithful, but you know, he doesn't move the needle in the way that David Beckham did. Not that he needs to, because this is, once again, this is the next generation of this of huge signings, and I love it. But I wonder if they could have gotten him for less. But it doesn't matter. It's not my money. It's their money. If that's the way they want to spend it, fine.
Next item, Jesus Ferreira. On the heels of selling Ricardo Pepi, FC Dallas have chosen to hold on to their other big homegrown star. In fact, they've made him a DP, which is kind of neat because his father was a DP with Dallas all these years back then. So, and it sounds like he'll count as a young DP, so he won't count that much against the salary cap. But it's interesting because, I mean, two things. When you think designated players, you think splashy signings for established stars like Lorenzo Insigne. Instead, Dallas have chosen to take one of their homegrown domestic stars and turn him into a DP. And also, you know, when you're a club like FC Dallas, you have to calibrate. You develop these players and presumably they're going to sell them to Europe. But when is the right time? Ferreira was attracting some interest this offseason, and they've decided that the guy to sell right now is Pepi, and instead they're going to hold on to Ferreira, it sounds like, for another couple of years, and then perhaps look to unload him. So that's always an interesting calculation that clubs that operate like Dallas have to make. And so this is the way they've chosen to go: sell Pepi, sign Ferreira to a DP deal. What do you make of that?
You know, more quotes: pay the man his money. This is wonderful for a number of different reasons. You know, I've talked a lot over the last few years about, you know, Don Garber's quote about Major League Soccer becoming a league of choice. Well, in order for that to happen, it can't just be a league of choice of foreign talent coming in. It also has to be a league of choice of domestic talent, domestically fostered and developed talent, looking at the league as a league of choice. But in order to do that, you have to compete with the ambitions and the dreams and the hopes of a lot of these players that they have relative to going to Europe. And it's not just about going to Europe in terms of the soccer. It's about literally the money that can be made, and the more money that can be made, and the fact that there are players of equal talent. And this gets back actually to the Insigne thing. What happens when, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, there is a player that is making, I don't know, $300,000 or $500,000 or $800,000 that is twice the player that Lorenzo Insigne is when it comes to up there in TFC. So the value of these players, you have to make it worth their while. And the way you do that is obviously you pay them a lot of money. So I love this. I've been critical of FC Dallas's approach on a number of different things when it comes to the product that they are putting on the field. Not when it comes to the development. They are A1 and they are the shining light when it comes to the development and the business of developing players and selling them on. But my question was always, that's all fine and well, but that doesn't do me any good as a season ticket holder or a potential season ticket holder. This does. You say, look, this guy is a good player. Where are we going to go out on the market and find this type of replacement? We could sell him right now, and they might sell him in the next year, and this might be an assurance. But right now, this is a guy that is going to score goals from us. He has a potential of being on that World Cup team, so he's not going to get, he's not going to go like Pepi, which is a kind of a risk, going to a completely new league and a completely different team. So there's a comfort level when it comes to what Jesus Ferreira is doing right now. And we are going to make him that marquee star, and that he is not, quote unquote, a foreign player coming from another league that has the sexy cachet of doing that, doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't deserve this type of money, or he doesn't bring that type of value, or that he can't sell tickets and he can't be a star. And so well done from FC Dallas, recognizing that there is incredible talent here, and you're going to spend big like they did to keep that talent here in Major League Soccer. Not forever. Who knows? Maybe Jesus Ferreira continues and becomes a multimillionaire doing this and never cares about whether he goes over to Europe or not. We'll see. Or maybe they say, you know what, we're going to sign him here for this. He makes the World Cup team. Maybe he's not a star. He comes on, he scores a bunch of goals, and then we sell him for even more after the World Cup. But I think this is good news, and this is a good message to send, not just to FC Dallas, but I think to Major League Soccer. And I wish more teams did more things like this, because there is talent out there.
It's interesting to deviate to the U.S. national team for a second. Ferreira is on this squad for this January camp that's going on right now that Berhalter assembled. And, there's a type of U.S. fan out there, and you know who you are, that was looking at these three qualifiers coming up that are taking place right in the heart of the MLS offseason and was thinking, great, he has no choice but to call a European-based squad, which is what we want anyway, because I know fans feel like the U.S. has enough players now in Europe that they could put together a European-based squad and not even have to, reach back for MLS guys. But Berhalter is clearly not of that mind. They scheduled that Bosnia-friendly. They scheduled this camp. He wants to keep the MLS players active because there are clearly a few on this list that he deems indispensable, that he plans to call for those qualifiers. So he's done everything he can the last few weeks to ensure that they're in pretty good form. And what do you make of that decision, that approach?
This civil war that has broken out between, those that value, and I would put Greg Berhalter for obvious reasons, value the mix of your domestic players, predominantly almost all Major League Soccer players, with the European players. And then there's the other side that says, basically, as soon as you get on that plane, you are of more value, and that's who I want on the national team. And if they had their druthers, they would have all players that are playing overseas, and obviously that means Europe. I think it is detrimental. I think it is harmful, and I think it's misguided ultimately. And I think Greg Berhalter recognizes that his success is going to, and not because he cares about making Major League Soccer better or sending message. Greg Berhalter's job is to win. He's going to put the best players regardless of where they play. But I think he's come to the conclusion that when it comes to the best collection of players, which we remind you time and time again is the most important thing, it's not about the best players, it's about the best collection of players on a national team, that for him, the best collection of players is going to include some players that, oh my God, play in Major League Soccer. And that is going to blow the minds of people and irritate people from now until the foreseeable future, and certainly through the next World Cup and probably beyond. But I think that and you're looking at this. Look, there are going to be a lot of players that are at this January camp right now that are just there to be taken a look at, and they will go, and then the European players will join up when camp starts for the World Cup qualifiers at the end of the month, and then you're going to have that mix that ultimately I think is going to be what this team looks like. And once again, it bothers me that this civil war is going on. It doesn't surprise me because it's kind of what we do as American soccer people out there. And I know, I mean, we all bring our baggage and our history and our biases when it comes to that. And you can accuse me of doing that. But, you know, I ultimately think that if my job is to have the team win, I want to make sure that I leave no stone unturned. And I think that's what Greg Berhalter and his staff are doing here. And it doesn't matter where ultimately somebody plays.
Two stories involving RSL. First off, the ownership situation after 16 months of essentially being owned by MLS after the previous owner had to depart in disgrace. They finally have a new ownership group. I know you're not the biggest NBA fan, but does the name Dwayne Wade mean anything to you?
I mean, I recognize it. I couldn't tell you where he plays or what position he plays or if he plays. Does he still play?
No. Legendary guard with the Miami Heat. Won a bunch of championships with them. Played alongside LeBron and Chris Bosh in that super team that they assembled. I know this.
Oh, the three. Okay, the three. Yeah, I remember him. So. And I like him now because, you know, he recognizes the business opportunity that exists when it comes to soccer, and that's cool. So I'm glad that he is a part. First off, I'm just glad that there's new ownership there for this team. That, you know, a lot of credit goes to all of the men and women on and off the field that worked over the last year under what has to be said are not ideal types of circumstances being run by the league as they look to find ownership. And this new ownership, by all accounts, look, they're saying all the right things. You know, you mentioned some of the star power that they bring. For those that haven't been to Salt Lake and have seen what RSL has become. And when I say RSL, it's not just RSL, it's the facilities that they have, it's the developmental academies that they have, it's the men's and women's team, and it's the different stadiums that they have, and the way that they are ingrained in that culture and in that community. I'm glad that there is somebody that recognizes there is value there, is willing to pay for that value. It'll be interesting to see ultimately when those numbers come out, how much they actually have bought, what the price tag is, and the valuation of all that, and how much it was piecemeal or is it the whole kit and caboodle? I don't know. But congratulations to RSL. Now you have an ownership group. Now you can kind of move forward without that hanging over your head. And, you know, there's all sorts of attachments when it comes to the ownership group, including the 76ers, which is evidently a basketball team, Crystal Palace, Augsburg, who we just mentioned, Utah Jazz, and then you mentioned the NBA legend there in Dwayne Wade. Do we call him Dwayne or is it D Wade? I mean, if you're cool, you call him D Wade.
D Wade. D Wade. Yeah.
Okay. D Wade.
By the way, one random note on ownership. In Brazil a few months ago, they passed a law that soccer clubs can become limited companies. And two storied clubs in Brazil have done that and been sold to new owners. One of them, Cruzeiro, was bought by Ronaldo, who rose to prominence with that club many years ago. And we know has become an owner in recent years. He bought the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, Valladolid in Spain, and now he's bought a Brazilian club, Cruzeiro. But the other one, Botafogo, or Rio de Janeiro Giants, they were bought by an American, John Textor, music executive, who's also part owner of Crystal Palace. So we now have an American owner in the Brazilian league. I'd love to get this guy on the pod to talk to him about this, because this was big news in Brazil. He just arrived in Rio the last couple of days and has given his first round of interviews. Botafogo are a storied club. For a long time, they held the distinction of being the club that had provided the most players to the Brazilian national team. I'm not sure if that's still true, but they've supplied a bunch of guys in those 58, 62, 70 World Cup winning sides, everyone from Garrincha to Gigi, Nilton Santos, Zagallo, Amarildo, Gerson, Jairzinho. And they've fallen on hard times lately. They actually just got promoted back up from the second division, and we'll see what he can do. But I'm actually kind of intrigued by this, an American owner in the Brazilian league. So as long as we're talking owners, I did want to sneak that in there. But one last, circling back to RSL, Albert Rusnak is on his...
Yeah, that's their first. So their first order of business, these new owners, is to lose out on signing their star forward. Way to go, guys.
Well, you know, Keith Costigan has tried to play the role of reporter here. He's been all over the place. He had him going to the Galaxy at one point. Keith, frankly, has kind of made a fool of himself in this whole situation. But his latest tweets have him going to the Sounders, and it seems to be there's some legs here. So it sounds like Albert Rusnak. Boy, the rich get richer. I mean, you add him to the Sounders with all the talent they already have. So, I mean, they're going to be a handful again next season. But yeah, it sounds like Albert Rusnak off to Seattle.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, listen, clean slate, start anew, do all that kind of stuff. We'll look forward to seeing what RSL looks like with their new ownership group. Anything else, Mossy?
That's it.
All right. We will take a real quick break. When we come back, oh yeah, it's time for a trip around Europe and a little bit of the rest of the world. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back, and you get up on these weekends, and when it comes to the EPO, which takes up so much of the oxygen in the room, and I'm part of many of us that are soaking it up and breathing it up. It's FA Cup weekend, and so while there is soccer, while there is English soccer going on, it's a little bit of a different. Is the bloom off the rose, Mossy? Is the romance still there when it comes to FA Cup? Because while I watched it because it was on, it didn't have the flavor and the excitement and the romance that maybe we have seen in the past or certainly been promised.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the magic was kind of waning, but nothing can restore that romance like big upsets. And we had a couple that got everybody excited this past weekend. Nottingham Forest, our former colleague Jeff Hyman is a big fan of that club, so he was buzzing about this result. They stunned Arsenal 1-0, so 14-time FA Cup winners Arsenal are out of the FA Cup this season. And then third-tier Cambridge United beat Newcastle, who are now, the evil empire, so everybody loved that result. So I don't know, did those games get you going? Is that the magic, the romance that you want from the FA Cup? So did it at least supply some of that for you?
Well, what's interesting is in the age of COVID, right? We haven't become used to it, but we at least have tried to adapt and be flexible in these times. And I think we actually individually and collectively have done a pretty good job of doing that. Because you can throw an asterisk on pretty much anything at this point, where you have teams that are missing multiple players, some teams missing entire starting lineups, for safety and health protocols that exist out there. So I think you have to just look at it on face value and say, this is a game, this is who is available, this who isn't available in this day and age, and you go with it. Having said that, I don't know, it just didn't excite me. It was interesting juxtaposing the scenes at many of these games in England where, despite the COVID situation, there were big crowds, as opposed to over in Germany where it was brutal, Mossy. And it was sad watching some of the games because it was a reminder and so reminiscent of that, the darkest time, the bubbles and the completely raw and stark nature of empty stadiums that, unfortunately, when it comes to Germany, they have returned to. So maybe that, maybe all of that has put me into a much, less excited mood when it comes to the games.
Well, all the other big boys that take care of business, Liverpool brushed aside Shrewsbury Town, Chelsea took care of Chesterfield, Manchester City swatted away Swindon Town. The Lukaku thing, he apologized. He played pretty well in that League Cup semifinal first leg against Tottenham. They won 2-0, so they're in good shape to reach the final there. He scored in this game, so it seems like that drama has passed. And
let me ask you a question. This is, I know, going a little bit off the map here, but when I hear coaches, managers, and players complaining about the number of games, how come they're not complaining about playing in the FA Cup?
Oh, so you would do away with this competition altogether?
Well, no, I'm asking you, why aren't they complaining? Why should the FA Cup continue?
Well, like you said, there's incredible history in that competition, and it is a chance for these lower league teams to face Premier League sides. So, I mean, it's something that they cherish in England. So I think the League Cup is where you'd have a better argument if that feels a little bit to have a second cup competition, but I don't see them ever doing away with the FA Cup. I think that's too ingrained as a part of English footballing culture.
Yeah, but you're hurting these young men. You're hurting them. According to Kylian Mbappe, if you just want to see soccer, fine. But if not, you have to get rid of games. So why don't they just get rid of the FA Cup? And the answer is, well, part of it is what you said with the tradition and the culture. But the real reason is because of money. and because of what it brings. I only say that to recognize that the argument oftentimes when it comes to some of these things does come down to money, but it's what is that money doing? And in this case, in many instances, when it comes to the FA Cup, that money is literally enabling teams to survive and to thrive, and they rely on that. And so there is when it comes to a lot of these extra games or all of these games that are playing, there is a benefit. There is a reason why ultimately these games are being played. All right. Anyway, Mossy, go on. We'll see if anybody ever says, all right, we're just going to do away with it. And in doing so, gets rid of that money and that opportunity for people.
Well, I mentioned Chelsea beat Tottenham 2-0 in the first leg of their League Cup semifinal. Liverpool got the first leg of their semifinal against Arsenal postponed because of a COVID outbreak, but they are still going to play those two legs. So we'll see. It looks like Chelsea are in good shape to reach the final on one side of it, and then it would be against either Liverpool or Arsenal. So we could have a tasty League Cup final. Back to the FA Cup. Today, Manchester United face Aston Villa. Villa made some news in recent days. They've acquired Philippe Coutinho on loan from Barcelona. I do have a few thoughts on that deal. It sounds like they're paying. There was a big holdup over what percentage of his salary Villa would pay. So it turns out they're paying 65% of it, but then Coutinho is forfeiting the rest because Barcelona don't want to have to deal with any of his salary for the remainder of the season. This, by the way, Barcelona wanted it to be an 18-month loan, which would take it through the end of his contract with them. But Villa said no. So it's only a 6-month loan. So we're still kicking the can down the road. There's a chance he's going to be back at Barcelona in the summer, and they're going to have to figure out something to do with him for next season. It's funny. The other thing I'll say about this deal is they made the option to buy price a little too high. It's like 40 million euros, which I know that's just a number that it means if Villa were to pay that amount, Barcelona don't have a say in the matter. They can just take them. The two clubs could still negotiate a lower fee than that. But still, why even make it a crazy number that there's no way Villa is going to pay? Make it like 20 million euros and give Villa less to think about. You know how the English are. He has a few good games. The fans are excited. And Villa might say, let's pay that. Let's take him. And instead, they put it at a number where Villa would have to stop and think about it and would probably come to the conclusion that at his age, it's not the right amount. So now you get into having a negotiated deal. It just complicates everything. If you're Barcelona, you're just desperate to get him off the team. Make that option to buy price like incredibly low to entice Villa to trigger that clause. I don't know. That's how I come down.
Well, aren't you putting the cart before the horse here? I mean, a couple good games is actually, could be a reach when it comes to Coutinho. What's going on with him? I know we've talked over the years about what he is and maybe what he isn't, but what do you think? I mean, is it just a series of bad moves and the wrong types of situations and the wrong environment and then some injuries and different things here? Or is he, because he still shows flashes and we're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, the initial issue there was tactical. They acquired him supposedly to be the successor to Iniesta, but Coutinho doesn't work as a midfielder in a 4-3-3. He doesn't have the fitness to be like this two-way player. And also, at Barcelona, he didn't even work as that left-sided attacking player because with Messi and Suarez there, you kind of need that third guy to be a more dynamic player that's going to get behind the defense and run onto through balls from Messi and Suarez, which is kind of the role Neymar played when he was at Barcelona. And Coutinho is more of a playmaker. He wants the ball to his feet. So there's a certain redundancy there with him and Messi. And so that never totally made sense either. So the initial issue was tactical, and then it became a mental thing, like having his dream move unravel and his career fall apart like that. He's kind of mentally soft, I have to say, and he just couldn't cope with it. He's even gone to see a psychiatrist, I read recently, because he's just so distraught over this whole thing. I will say, I'm not sure if he's salvageable, but this Aston Villa move is the best bet. This is exactly what I was hoping for. A mid-table Premier League team where he's going to be showered with love, where the fans are so excited to have him, a manager in Steven Gerrard, who he has a great relationship with from their time at Liverpool together. So if there's any hope, this is it. I actually think this move has a shot of working out. But, All
right. Speaking of working out, in the next 6 months, which one is more successful? Coutinho to Aston Villa or Kieran Trippier from Atletico Madrid to Newcastle United?
I think Coutinho has a chance to be the happier of those two. Trippier, it's funny, Newcastle are having to look outside of England for players because there's a school of thought that the English teams have sort of colluded and agreed that they're not going to sell players to Newcastle because they so resent this Newcastle sale. And so all the transfer links with Newcastle right now are from different leagues, La Liga players. And so they're able to get Trippier, an Englishman who happened to be playing in Spain for Atletico Madrid, to come back. And I guess Trippier wanted to come back to England, so he accepts this move. But
hold on. Your tinfoil is showing here. Hang on a second. You are suggesting that the English teams are colluding because their nose is so bent out of shape because of this sale and the way this sale all came down, that they are refusing to sell any talent within England to Newcastle that could possibly, create this new super club that therefore theoretically could compete with them. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not for sure, but I've heard rumblings that might be occurring.
Come on, their money's as good as anybody. When it comes down to money, they will take it, and they have lots of money. But okay, all right, I'll buy it.
But yeah, Trippier is joining a team. It was always interesting to see who was going to be that first guy, because it is a bit of a leap of faith at this point. It's like somebody who's like an obese person wins the lottery and they tell you like, hey, now that I have all this money, I'm going to be able to like pay for all the best like workout regimens in the world, and I'm going to look like a model. It's like, yeah, maybe, but I kind of want to see that first. You kind of want to see it to believe it, and that's where Newcastle are at. And so they've we're able to lure Trippier there. He's joining a team that has 1 win in 19 games in the Premier League that's in the relegation zone, has a very good chance to get relegated. So that's why I say, a few months from now, this might not look like a great move for Trippier, but I guess he wanted to go back to England and they offered him enough money. And so we know Warren Barton's excited about it. So, we'll see.
What would you put in terms of the odds right now of Newcastle going down? Is 50-50 right now, or what are we looking at here? More? 60%?
No, because the teams around them are pretty bad too. So, I don't know, 50-50, yeah.
50-50, all right.
Yeah. Okay. But so, all right. So that's a story in England. I think we can move on to Spain. Real Madrid, the La Liga leaders, they beat Valencia 4-1. Vinicius Jr. Has reached a level where we're now giving him credit, giving him the benefit of the doubt for what was probably just a lucky deflection on that first goal. And he's also reached a level where I'm getting excited Alexi Lalas tweets during Real Madrid games about him. So there's this Vinny mania going on in Madrid, and it seems like you're getting sucked into that.
Yeah, we're going to pump him up, baby. We're going to pump him up. I'm asking you. He'll be there with Brazil, right?
I would hope so. He actually shockingly was not included in the last qualifying squad, and Chichi was lambasted for that. But then when Firmino got injured, he did call up Vinny Jr. as a replacement, and he played quite a bit in the game. So I think Chichi recognized that he had made a dumb mistake the first go around. So yeah, I
am bullish on this player. Despite the kind deflection and all that kind of stuff, you still got to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think we always kind of look to that next person. And so it was funny. I texted you, and then immediately you texted back with your incredible mind thinking ahead, because inevitably we will come out with players to watch or breakout players from the tournament and stuff like that. And you can bet your ass that Vini Jr., if he is on the team and he's there, he's going to be one, because Brazil is going to have a lot of attention. Brazil is always in the running to win the World Cup. And the person that puts the ball in the back of the net, or potentially the person that puts the ball in the back of the net, is always going to get a good attention. So when you see my face come on TV and they ask me for that list of players, and I say Vinny Jr., you will have already heard it here. So it's guaranteed almost that is going to be one of those players that we are talking about as having a breakout World Cup. And I do think that it is justified. Is he the finished product? Absolutely not. And that he is playing next to and with one of the great goal scorers who is constantly undervalued, I think, in Benzema. But I saw the stat the other day that combined between the two, Benzema and Vinny Jr., they have more goals than the entire Barcelona team combined. So they are kicking the ass, and he is doing it for a young player at a good clip.
And Benzema, you mentioned, he's gone past 300 goals for Real Madrid. He's going to probably leave there as their second all-time leading scorer. He's going to blow past Di Stefano and Raul in the coming weeks, or it might have to take it until next season for him to pass Raul. But He's going to end up as their second all-time leading scorer behind Cristiano Ronaldo, which is an impressive feat for him, since he was actually a player that came under a lot of criticism early in his Real Madrid career. And for all those years with Ronaldo, sort of adapted his game to be more of a, Firmino-esque kind of playmaking center forward. And yet here he is, like, scoring records at that storied club. So, I will say I'm fairly certain Real Madrid are going to win La Liga, but Sevilla are at least making it interesting. They beat Getafe 1-0. They're 5 back with a game in hand. If they win that game in hand, the gap would only be 2. So for the time being, we can't give it to Real Madrid just yet. The interesting thing in Spain is there's an incredible battle shaping up for top 4. You've got 3 through 6. Betis, Atletico, Real Sociedad, and Barcelona are separated by 2 points. And if you want to really get crazy with it, 4 through 10 are separated by 5 points. Even 10th place Valencia is kind of sort of in the mix there. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that. Barcelona could have leaped into the top 4 this weekend, but they surrendered a late equalizer to Granada. They were up 1-0 on a Luke de Jong goal and then conceded late. So disappointing for them. But that's what their battle is right now. They're just trying to eke into that top 4, which would, I guess, salvage this season.
All right. Well, as I said, there weren't great games. There were a few. And let's switch over to Serie A now, unless you have anything else, La Liga, that you wanted to mention.
One last thing on Barcelona. There's interesting subplot with them this season. La Liga has a rule that you have to have 7 first-team players on the field, 7 guys that are registered as first-team players. And that's actually causing a headache for Xavi because he wants to undergo this youth movement. They're calling this team Baby Barcelona. He's brought in all these guys from the youth team from Barcelona B that aren't registered as first-team players, and he wants to get as many of them on the field as possible, but it's an issue because of those rules. And so he's been exasperated by it. He said in interviews, I have to constantly make this calculation in my head when I'm planning subs. Wait, how many first-team players we have? How many that aren't? Because
is he going to be okay? Is Xavi going to be okay? But it's going to be okay, buddy.
But it was interesting this weekend.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Come on.
They've had a couple of instances where they've had only the 7, which is very risky because if one of those guys got sent off, they would forfeit the game right then and there. Those are the rules, which is a tad weird because you most leagues, if you're going to put any kind of rules in place, it's usually to incentivize teams to play homegrown domestic player. I know you're not crazy about that either, but if you're going to err on one of those 2 ways, it's weird to have a rule that almost sort of, hinders the ability of teams to bring up.
What's weird is to have Xavi complaining about it. Okay. You knew it going, don't take the job then. Okay. If it's going to hurt your ability to do whatever this project is that you are doing, what he's trying to do is obviously build from within, create, whether it exists or not. He's hell bent on saying that this is another golden generation. Well, he may find out that he was part of a generation that, yes, it was helped by the environment that they have, but it was also kind of sent from the gods and a matter of serendipity and timing. So figure it out. All right. You knew this going in. You want to change the rules? Okay, fine. You can scream and yell, I guess, but I have little to no sympathy when it comes for Xavi.
All right. Well, now we can transition to Italy, which I keep saying this. Serie A has been low-key the most entertaining league in Europe for really the last couple of years, but especially this season. I mean, this Roma-Juventus match this weekend was bonkers. Yep. Roma had a 3-1 lead at home. Playing well, everybody happy. And then they surrendered 3 goals. Locatelli, Kulusevski, and Deschilio all scored within minutes of each other. So Juventus turned it completely around. They win 4-3. Mourinho, devastated afterwards, said his team was weak, lacks personality, etc. Everything you'd expect him to say after a loss like that. And so, yeah, I mean, did you watch this game? This was absolutely incredible.
Was incredible. It was one of the best games that we've seen in a long time. And not just that. Well, goals always make a game better. I get that, but also keep in mind this is a league that traditionally and over the years has talked so much about tactics and so much about defense and all that. And this is just free form going back and forth. Very little defending. A red card to Juve. Penalty kick saved by Juve. It was amazing. Our Weston McKennie started and did well and was part of it, but this was street soccer, and I loved it. Now, to your point, Juventus is desperate. They're desperate for points to get themselves back up to where they feel they should be. So this is a huge win on the road. To see Jose Mourinho go from, this is my team. And in a span of 6 minutes, when 3 goals were scored, it went from, this is my team, they're so hard and mentally strong and physically strong, to they lack any type of fortitude. was amazing. I'm sure his mind is just blowing, and I'm sure he was screaming and yelling in private, even more so than he was doing in public. And it's not a good look. It's not a good look for Roma. It's not a good look for Jose Mourinho.
It's funny. The ultimate indignity from Mourinho, though, is because Luis put here on the rundown, do you think Mourinho's on the hot seat? And I would say no, for the simple fact that this is what Roma are. They're about the 6th or 7th best team in Serie A, so they're 7th right now. And so that's just like the level he's at right now. So I don't think we judge Mourinho by previous standards of, he has to be winning trophies or it's a failure. He had to drop down to the point where he's managing a club where there really aren't that big of expectations, really. So, I guess he's not on the hot seat for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's I know, to your point, what are we judging him on? We're judging him relative to a team that, while is storied, is a mid-level team right now. But when you do the hardest thing in the world, which is to get your team as a manager to score goals, especially against, not a great Juventus team, still a good Juventus team, and probably a better team, a better team than Roma, and you put yourself up and you put yourself in that position, then I guess it gets that much more frustrating. If you're just completely played off the field and you're out of the game and you're not even in it, then okay, whatever. You didn't do what you wanted to do, but what's gonna drive him crazy, I'm talking about Jose Mourinho, is that it worked the way they drew it up. And for any coach, that's what you crave. That's what you want. And it doesn't always happen. So when it happens and then you piss it away, it's got to make it that much more frustrating, not just for coaches, but also for fans that are watching. But it was, without a doubt, for me, the best game of the weekend. Anything else, Mossy?
Inter beat Lazio 2-1 at home, so they're in first place. I'm pretty confident they're going to win Serie A. I think they're the best team. But Milan is right there too, so we'll see. We could have a fun race in Italy. But Inter reclaimed first place with that win over Lazio. You want to move on to Germany?
Yeah, let's go.
So I'll tell you, Bayern having all sorts of problems with Gladbach this season. They lose at home 2-1 this past weekend. Remember, Gladbach is a team that thumped them 5-0 in the German Cup and earned a 1-1 draw against them in the opening round of the Bundesliga. So, I mean, how often do you see that? A German team, 3 games against Bayern in one season, and it's 2 wins and 1 draw. Bayern were missing a bunch of guys, but enough played. I mean, you still had Lewandowski, Muller, Gnabry, Kimmich, Pavard, Sula, Sabitzer. I know some of these guys were playing out of position. But still, I mean, I just rattled off some pretty good names there. So it's
well, we just mentioned, the problem that Roma had closing out the game. They should just look at Gladbach and what they did. I mean, that was bend but don't break. That was batten down the hatches and weather the storm. And if you're Bayern Munich, yes, you're disappointed that you didn't win, that you didn't win at home. You do everything but put the ball on the back of the net. And for a team like Bayern, that's a problem because there's probably nobody better, especially when they're playing in Germany against German opposition, at doing that and doing that on a consistent basis. And it wasn't there. That final moment wasn't there, despite knocking on the door for much of the game.
And staying in Germany, Ricardo Pepi made his debut at Augsburg this past weekend in a 3-1 loss to Hoffenheim. He came on in the 60th minute when they were down 2-1, played the last 30 minutes. Going up against another American, by the way, Chris Richards, was having an excellent campaign. But what did you make of Pepi's debut?
I mean, look, it's hard. I bet his head is just spinning. You get there, and it's not only that you have to acclimate very, very quickly to a completely different country, culture, language. It's then you also have to immediately perform at a high level in the fishbowl that is soccer over there. And look, this is what he wanted. This is what he dreamed of. And now he finally got it. I thought it was amazing. And look, once again, Twitter and social media is not necessarily a focus group, but it was fun to see this happen through the eyes of social media and to see all of the Americans who, let's be honest, they've never watched Augsburg, okay? But get up. And by the way, that is what the business is of signing American players. It's that I'm waking up and I'm actually going and finding a Augsburg game because there is an American. And it's so something that I have that, that touches me. And obviously he didn't start. And so we're all screaming, put him in, especially when they go down and they want to do something. He came on, he did fine, had decent touches, was dangerous in the box, which was what he needs to be on a consistent basis. I think you saw that this is a team that is going to, to struggle to create opportunities, especially against better opposition. But, that he didn't look out of place. If you didn't know his backstory or who he was, you would never know that he had just gotten to the team, or that he was 18 years old, 19 years old, whatever he is, or that he has had such a limited professional lifespan. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if, now with another week of training, you spend this much money for, yes, like I said, a 19-year-old young player. At some point, you got to start him, and we'll see if this week he gets that start, because it's hard coming in just in normal circumstances for a substitute, let alone someone who's just brand new to the team, and you're trying to figure out the names of your teammates and what's going on and how this whole new world that you've fallen into functions.
And then finally in France, it's funny, right before we started taping, we were just kind of talking, and you said, "Oh, did you see Pochettino's gone?" And both Luis Aguilar and I freaked out and immediately started Googling it, because we thought you meant Mauricio Pochettino. You were talking about Thomas Pochettino, the youngster who Austin FC loaned out to River Plate. But it actually crossed my mind that it could be the other Pochettino, Mauricio, because disappointing result for PSG at the weekend, 1-1 draw away to Lyon. PSG have drawn 4 of their last 5 league games. I know they're bored. They're way ahead in that league, but still, that Real Madrid Champions League tie is not that far away, and they just can't get any momentum going this season. No Messi, no Neymar. And I'll tell you, Mbappe has carried that team this season. So on his off days when he's not in the mood, I mean, there's just like nothing there for them to fall back on, is the truth. They actually lucky to even get a point here. They fell behind 1-0 on a goal made in Brazil. Lucas Paquetá, Ali Wagner's favorite player, scoring after a beautiful pass by Bruno Guimarães. And then PSG outplayed most of the game, able to eke out an equalizer through Thilo Kehrer in the second half. So it finishes 1-1. But yeah, I mean, PSG, again, they just can't get anything going.
PSG only matters when they get to the Champions League, right? I mean,
yeah, we'll see. They'll face Benzema, Vinny Jr. and company in about a month, so you can get ready for that.
Can't wait.
One last thing. I don't like to throw Luis Aguilar under the bus ever.
You don't? It's kind of fun. Go ahead, do it.
He did not include AFCON in this rundown. I wonder what Grant Wall would make of that. I mean, you talk about the elitism. But we
typical.
We should at least pay homage to the fact that this tournament got underway this weekend. Hosts Cameroon won the opener 2-1 over Burkina Faso. Cape Verde also victorious in the opening day. And then today, actually, Senegal got a late goal from Sadio Mane from the penalty spot to beat Zimbabwe. I'm looking at the scores here. Morocco, who are one of the favorites, they beat Ghana 1-0. So we are off and running on AFCON. Have you watched any of this? Are you excited about this tournament?
Well, I mean, it begs the question: if a tournament happens on beIN, does it actually happen? So that's the challenge for a lot of people, is actually finding it. And being able to watch it. Look, we talked about this before. It comes at a very strange time, but we're looking at teams, we're looking at players that are going to be involved in the World Cup. We're looking at some of the great players from some of the great and top teams around the world. But there is an attitude that this is kind of out of sight and out of mind. And it's too bad, because I think if you take the time to actually find it first and foremost, and then actually watch it, like a lot of tournaments, you learn, you grow into it, and that steady diet of games that comes with a tournament, it just kind of becomes this comfort food. I don't know how many people out there are going to do that, and that's the challenge of whether it's AFCON in this situation or the CONCACAF Gold Cup in different situations. It's having if you saw some of the some of the crowds, and I'm not talking just about the crowds in the stadium, but the crowds outside of people watching and getting into this tournament. It's very, very quickly becomes apparent, if you didn't know, and there are people out there that don't know how important it is to the fans, to the countries, and to these cultures that are participating in their regional tournament. And it's wonderful to see. And like I said, you will see not only stars that exist right now, but the making of stars that will then, again, maybe star in November and December in Qatar, or go on to big clubs to be stars. So even if you're not necessarily into it, if it's just a reconnaissance mission or a scouting type of mission for your league or your team or your region, it would make sense. But again, and this goes to broadcast and to TV, and the constant debate that we have about the ease in which it is there for people to view, and whether it's behind paywalls or whether it's subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. The more obstacles and the more challenges we put, either from a financial perspective or just a practical perspective of what do you click and doing all that, the more difficult it sometimes is for people to take the time and to care about these things. Anything else, Mossy?
That's it.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, it's time for Ask Alexi. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back, and it's time for Ask Alexi. You use that hashtag AskAlexi, and you send in those questions on the old social media platforms, or you can call in on our hotline, our State of the Union hotline, which, as you know, is 657-549-2297. That's 657-549-2297. This week, we got a bunch of Twitter questions, I think. What do we got, Mossy?
Well, evidently, you were discussing Gyasi Zardes on Twitter, and you said Zardes has taken more crap than any player in U.S. men's national team history. It's cruel and unusual, and it's all because of where he plays. So at Mr. Calcio Guy replied to that by asking, what has Zardes done in the last year outside of one goal versus Qatar in the Gold Cup that you would deem him to get praise for his efforts? No question he gives his all, but do you really think he has done as much as he could have in the last 2 years to help the U.S. men's national team succeed?
Well, hold on a second. You just answered the question. And keep in mind that my response was someone who said Gyasi Zardes, shouldn't be on the roster. Love the guy, but that's a spot for someone who will do whatever it takes for all 90. Now, that's where I have an issue. Okay, you can say Zardes shouldn't be on the team because insert your data here. The one goal here, there, whatever. And that's completely legitimate and fair. We can have a debate and discussion about that. But maybe I'm wrong, but I have rarely, if ever, and that's why this was so, I think, distressing to me, have I ever seen anybody question that he'll do whatever it takes for 90 minutes. You might think he sucks. You might think that he doesn't deserve to be on the field because of his first touch or of his inability to score goals. But never has his effort been questioned. And that's what I was responding to there. So as far as him being on the team, sure, you can, his job ultimately is to score goals, and his goal production has decreased. Keep in mind, it's decreased at a time when we are looking for somebody up there right now, and he is the old guy right now. And so while he's not the incumbent, because I think that, we were talking about Ricardo Pepi, and I think once again, I've said this before, it just shows the dearth of talent that we have at that position, that we are putting all of our faith and all of our eggs in the basket of a 19-year-old who has very, very little experience to start in that number 9 position. Daryl Dike might come on, but who knows? Gyasi Zardes might make the team, whether you like it or not. He might make the team, and he might explode for a bunch of goals in Qatar in November and December. But we can certainly have the debate, and I can certainly take multiple sides on whether he deserves to be there from a pure production standpoint. But questioning his effort when it comes to what he has given, and I think what he continues to give for the national team, I think that is without merit. And I think it is ultimately, I think it's cowardly, all right? You might not like the player, but never have I seen anybody question whether he is working hard, whether he is trying to score, whether he is giving an effort. And once again, that doesn't necessarily qualify you to play on the national team, but that's what I was responding to right there. Having said all of that, I still want Gyasi Zardes on my team. I think for a team that is so young, I think Gyasi Zardes can provide a different look for this team. I think he can provide experience. He's never going to be a problem when it comes to off the field and locker room. I don't think that he is so set in his ways and so antiquated, I guess, in his age or in his status that he is going to become a satellite and completely separate from the rest of that team. And I do think that he can do a job. And by the way, when he does that job, again, if I ever were to see Gyasi Zardes not, quote unquote, giving 100% or giving all for his country, to quote our friend over here, or giving, what is it said? Doing whatever it takes for all 90 minutes? Come on. Then absolutely he would not be in. Because it's one thing, if you're not giving all for 90 minutes, but you're still scoring goals, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt because that's your job, is to score goals. So anyway, that's what I was responding to there when it comes to Gyasi Zardes. And I absolutely feel that if Gyasi Zardes was playing in insert your European team name over here, that our perception of him and the criticism that is levied against him would be very, very different. So I do think that he is viewed through the prism of playing in Major League Soccer. And I think that hurts the perception from a lot of people when it comes to Gyasi Zardes.
Who would be a guy who is playing in Europe and you feel like his stock among U.S. fans is inflated because of that, who you don't think is that good, and yet U.S. fans keep talking about as a guy that, belongs on the national team? Is there an example you can give the other way?
I think, well, let's say, for example, if, let me think. I don't know. You know what? I love Weston McKennie. I think he's really, really good. I think he's going to be really, really important. I think he'd be good no matter what. But it would be really interesting to see how people viewed Weston McKennie if he was playing for the Colorado Rapids or something like that. So that's the way that I look at it. I don't look at anybody else out. I mean, look, Matthew Hoppe being with the national team. If Matthew Hoppe was the exact same player and doing the exact same thing, like I said, playing for Real Salt Lake or something like that, you think he'd get a sniff with the national team? No, absolutely not. So, and once again, we've all at times benefited from that. Those of us that have gone overseas, in terms of the way the perception has changed because of you're over there. And again, life isn't fair and soccer isn't fair. And you take what opportunities you have and advantages that you have, whether they're fair or not. You take them and you use them. And it doesn't matter how you get in the door, just get in the door. And then when you get there, do what you need to do. Anyway, I'm trying to think of some other ways. Maybe next week I'll have a list. But anyway, there's a couple of examples out there. All right, anything else, Moss?
Next question. Andrew Powell asks, whenever you were playing, would you have pulled any punches against a fellow national team player if it was in the year leading up to a World Cup? I was thinking of that when I watched Pulisic and McKennie playing against each other in the UEFA Champions League.
I think, and look, maybe I just wasn't built like that. No, the answer is absolutely not. It never even occurred to me to lay off a player, to pull out of a challenge, to live to fight another day, either because of potential damage I could do to my opponent or to myself. So I'm not saying that players don't think about, hey, listen, I got a couple more months here and then I have the World Cup and I could break my leg or I could, twist my ankle or do whatever. But I think when you are thinking about that, the odds increase that things are going to happen. And I think you will play, not only will you play differently, but you will play in a way, the irony is that you will start playing in a way that wasn't how you were actually identified as a good player. So you actually, if you were to do that, you would become a different player. The reason why you are having the success, the reason why you are even included with the national team is specifically because of the way that you play. And if you alter that, because again, you're living to fight another day, fine. I'm not saying that at times players won't play differently. I think it's kind of human nature. I'm just saying, I never ever occurred to me, like I said, going into it. And thankfully, and I never hurt anybody or hurt myself. I might think about it differently had I done so. If I had, it would crush me if I had done something that precluded a player from playing in a World Cup. It would hurt me, but I'm not sure that I would be able to play any other way. I think it would neuter me if I tried to play like that. And I think a lot of players are like that. In the moment, I think it's very, very difficult to be able to do that. For players like myself and others, maybe there's others that play on such a high plane that they're able to curtail and cater to specific moments and living to fight another day, I guess.
Imagine if you're an Argentinian player in Liga and you injured Messi in a Liga game like a couple of months before the World Cup.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be problematic.
Yes. Last question, one on this. At Ernie Fro 10 asks, why doesn't the U.S. men's national team have an official home stadium like other national teams?
I mean, look, we've talked about this over the years, and the reality of what our country is, both in terms of the geography, the vastness, the size, and the fact that we have so many different either established or emerging soccer markets out there makes it so it would be bad business, number one, and it would be bad for the brand of the U.S. men's national team, but more so, it would be bad for soccer. When you have a band, right? A band does residencies at two times. One, maybe at the very beginning of the career when they're trying to attract big label attention, or maybe after they're already established. You look at people going to Vegas or something like that. But these are established stars that have that type of cachet to bring everybody in. But for the most part, you're touring and you are bringing the band and the brand and the music, in this case, if we're talking about a band, to the people, to be in front of them, to spread that gospel. And in the same way that a band is a traveling circus, so is the national team. You are, spreading the gospel of not just your team and not just the individual players and the personalities, but of soccer. And I just think it makes sense, especially in a country and culture like ours, where soccer isn't king. You are trying to cut through all of the, other sports and everybody else doing the exact same thing, trying to grab a hold of hearts and minds and attention out there. So it completely makes sense. Now, when it comes to because people will say, yeah, well, we've gone to Ohio a lot, or we've gone to Columbus a lot. It's one thing when there is a competitive element and you are trying to put the team in the most advantageous place to play. That's a little different. But even then, when it comes to the World Cup qualifying games, while yes, we have gone back time and time again to different places, we have spread it out and we have played qualifiers. If you look at the history of where we have played qualifying games, which matter, which the result is more important necessarily than the actual money that you are bringing in. We've gone all over the map, literally all over the map when it comes to the continental United States. We have played at times in Hawaii it was going to be a national team game from a women's perspective there. I don't think we've played. I remember going with the Galaxy there. Someone was asking me the other day about because I was watching the actually, you know what? I'm going to save this for my one for the road here. But when it comes to this type of situation, I don't think that is something that would be smart. I don't think it's something that's going to be done. It might happen. And there's plenty of other national teams out there that don't use one specific stadium for the same reasons that I just mentioned. But if you were out there and you wanted to name our national stadium, where would it be? You tell me.
Well, listen, I don't mind spreading the games around, but it'd be interesting to have a stadium where, if the U.S. is hosting an international tournament, that's where the final is going to be. Because, Brazil plays its qualifiers all over the place, but that any big tournament in Brazil is ending at the Maracanã. So do you think the U.S. should at least strive to cultivate that? Is it Could SoFi become that as a Rose Bowl for a more historical? But no, you're okay with even us.
No, I mean, there's going to be organic types of places that we are going to be attracted to and that are going to serve as, bucket list types of things. And we've talked about Columbus and that. And that, like I said, I think it should happen organically, but I don't think that we should proactively be going out there and saying, this is the Mecca, this is where you have to come to. In a country the size of ours, with all of these different emerging markets, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think it's good business. I just don't think it's something that we should do. And I don't think we are going to do it for a very long time. Who knows in the future if that changes. Anything else, Moss?
That's it.
All right. As I mentioned, I have a one for the road. So we're going to take a real quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to ask for your input. So don't go away. All right. Welcome back. And we've come to the end of yet another State of the Union pod. And at the end of each and every pod, I give you my one for the road. And as I mentioned, I need your help because a good friend of mine asked me a question because, I mentioned that I had watched the Winter Classic over there with the NHL. And we saw the great Field of Dreams type of situation that happened with Major League Baseball and what we did on Fox and, how amazing it was. We've seen now for a number of years the NHL go and do a Winter Classic, and that has been wonderful business and has really provided a really unique and different type of atmosphere. And I know people have asked this before about what that would look like from a U.S. soccer perspective, either specifically from a Major League Soccer perspective, which we know incorporates both Canada and the U.S., or maybe from a national team perspective. As I mentioned before, one of the few places that we haven't been, I think, as a soccer playing nation is Alaska. And so that could be something. But I'm interested to hear from people what you think that would ultimately look like. I remember back in 1998, for example, prior to the World Cup, we went to New York City for our kind of send-off. At one point, I think we trained in Central Park. That could be something that would be interesting. And once again, you're trying to create a unique and different environment that brings in not just the people that are normally going to be there, but other people with a curiosity factor and a wow type of moment. Because look, I don't watch baseball on a continual basis, but that was cool to see what happened with Field of Dreams. While I watch the NHL, there's a lot of people sometimes that look at this stadium with snow falling down and the old time hockey type of stuff that's going on and say, hey, that's really kind of interesting, even though I'm not necessarily into NHL. And we're constantly trying to get as many people into the tent as possible. So I mentioned Central Park. A Mount Rushmore below Mount Rushmore would be interesting, although by the time we get that game going, maybe all those guys up there will be canceled. But who knows? I digress. Or maybe, listen, a Field of Dreams, right, is while it's relative to baseball, there's nothing that says it can't be a soccer field out in the middle. We could go out in the middle of Iowa or Nebraska or wherever they did that, and put a soccer field up and make it a Field of Dreams, but that field is actually a soccer of dreams. Some other ones that I was thinking about, Kearney, New Jersey, and the courts there, which are legendary and traditional. And I've actually played in some games there. I'm not sure that could. I know that from a practical perspective couldn't host a full big game, but those types of things that harken back, because we do have a history, but it's very different relative to baseball and football and all that kind of stuff. I was also thinking, there's a place called Belle Isle, which is in the Detroit River, and it kind of straddles, for those that don't know Detroit, on one side of the river is the United States, Detroit, on the other side of the river is Canada and Windsor, Ontario over there. And with this, from an MLS perspective, with this sharing and partnership that we have with Canada, with Canadian teams, maybe you do something like that. And it's actually a park, so you actually could do something like that. Or maybe you go and do the Niagara Falls type of situation where you're literally straddling the border. And I don't know, maybe that wouldn't work there because of the water in both of those, but who knows? Maybe you go up to the border and you find a way to have half the field in Canada and half the field in the United States. And you find some clearing where you're actually able to do that along the border and do something like that. But give me your ideas out there in our listenership. about what you think would approximate something like that when it comes to soccer, because everyone's always looking for good ideas and big ideas and the next ideas to do something unique and different and interesting when it comes to the sport, either from a national team perspective or from a Major League Soccer perspective, as to something that would be memorable and something that would be representative of the country, the countries, and what soccer has become here in 2022. Anyway, Mossy, you got anything left to say before we go?
No, that is it.
Are you sure? That's it? Really? You got nothing?
It's funny. I mentioned the American guy buying Botafogo. Botafogo, the Brazilian club, sent out a tweet within a U.S. flag, and I'm scrolling through the comments. The first 10 comments are Botafogo fans being like, "Sign Pulisic. We want Pulisic." So I don't think it works that way just because they've got an American owner now. But still, it's just kind of funny that Botafogo fans are clamoring for Pulisic.
Well, listen, there's a lot of very rich Americans out there that are looking at ways to spend their money. And, it's usually a long-term play, and they're going to kick the tires on the different leagues and the different systems that exist and the different structures that all of these leagues have. And it's interesting that when they come along one that they say, yeah, that's something that I want to be a part of. And they're not all, vanity plays. They're not all situations, like I said, where it doesn't matter. I think they oftentimes are looking at it as, hey, this is a good business. This is a good diversification type of situation for me.
Last thing, has your wife been following these Jim Harbaugh NFL rumors? It sounds like he might be on his way out of Michigan into the NFL.
Well, it was interesting because, and I'll leave you with this, we were watching the Detroit Lions game this weekend, and they won, by the way. In doing so, in spite of what would have actually enabled them to have the first pick or something like that, they went out there and won. And that, my friends, says everything that you need to know about Detroit. Not necessarily of the Detroit Lions, okay, but at least of Detroit, okay? That they said, no, we're not going to take the easy way out. We're not going to, I don't know, take a knee and call a timeout or do anything like that happened in those other games that we were watching. We said, no, we're going to go out there. We're going to play the game the way that it was meant to be played, and we're going to take that win, by the way, against the Packers. But the interesting thing when it comes to that is there was players on both teams. There was brothers on either side of the ball there. And so they looked up in the stands, and there was the mother and dad, and they were wearing the half and halves of Green Bay and Detroit, all that. And my wife, who was a huge Ohio State fan, she said, if our son were to play for Michigan and the Michigan Wolverines, as much as she hates the Michigan Wolverines and loves Ohio State, she would root for the Wolverines because her son is there. I think she would root for the Wolverines even more so, whether her son was there or not, if Mr. Harbaugh took the opportunities that are being afforded to him right now and went on. Do you think he's gone, my friend?
Sounds like it. Yeah, reading the tea leaves, it seems to be moving in that direction.
I mean, good luck with whoever hires him. All right.
Oh, I see. You've bought into your wife's narrative about it. This man was very successful in the NFL the last time around, took a team to the Super Bowl, won NFL Coach of the Year. So,
okay, that's fine. Go. What are the rumors? Vegas? Is that what I hear?
Yeah, the Vegas Raiders, and then the Miami Dolphins just fired their head coach, so that's a possibility. The interesting thing there is their owner, Stephen Ross, is this big Michigan alum who has always said, like, oh, I would never want to take Harbaugh away from Michigan, but everybody's putting two and two together there and thinking, wait a minute, I mean, you have an opening. He's like the hot guy out there. So, well, I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Best thing that could happen to your program. I think, all right? All right, listen, we haven't gone as long as last week, but we've still gone a little bit long, but we appreciate you listening. So keep downloading and subscribing and reviewing and doing all that kind of stuff. And remember to send those questions in with the hashtag AskAlexi. And of course, our hotline number, again, as a reminder, 657-549-2297, 657-549-2297. We'll be back here again on the State of the Union podcast, same time, same place. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, all those different types of things, and enjoy your soccer and your life, whether it's the soccer on the field or your life off the field, or maybe the two of them are mixed. We'll talk again next week. And until then, and as always, size the day. You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.